Yo, welcome back to the show. This is the Forest Kids podcast, and I'm your host, Paul, or whatever. I don't think I've ever introduced myself. Anyway, I'm here with my buddy Mike Lewis from the Jumping Juvies. What's going on, Mike?
What's up, man? What's going on?
Oh, absolutely. You know, nothing. That's it. That's all we needed for the intro.
That's true. It's always like a fake, hey, we just talked for the first time right now, not 20 minutes ago.
I've been like in the car every fucking, Oh my God. But it's really good to finally have you on the show to get to talk about the Juvies and shit on here, because I think they're like the longest running local band I've ever known.
Of all time. We just got the plaque.
Oh yeah, where you get the plaque from again?
Costco
or Voltage Lounge or oh no, the
Either
Nail
spot.
You get fucking a plaque at the Nail if you've been playing shows. Like, yeah, you've played here once. Oh my God. So how have you been? The Juvies lately and everything, you know?
I mean, the Juvies are doing really good. We got signed this year to a local label called Eclectica Division. Shout out.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I mean, that's definitely opened up a lot of opportunity for us, to have their support and have this like organization believe in us and, get us on some pretty cool shows, and we've just been at it, man. We put out some music this year, and I think as of today, that song, it's called You're Just Gonna Kill Me Anyway. I think we just reached like 9,000 streams.
Nice.
On Spotify.
You're grooving.
So I'm like, man, people like this?
Yeah.
So it's a good feeling.
I feel like Juvies style stuff is having a little resurgence a little bit. At least it's what I'm seeing on like social medias. Like I mentioned Flagman Band and shit, and I feel like they're like right in the pocket that would fit cool with you guys. They're like Primacy, but like still in that like intensity that you guys bring.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't see a lot of that. It's a lot of in the box stuff. It's a lot of, I mean, if it is intense, it's like hyper pop and shit today,
right.
But it's really cool to see like just a really good solid fucking band. Like I saw the Juvies. When was the Grape Room gig?
Oh man, I don't even know.
It was like 2 months ago or so.
Probably, yeah. I think we played over the summer.
Yeah, it was like September, early September or some shit, I think. But it was fucking great. Like,
thank you.
I feel like at this point I've seen a lot of like live acts working at the station and like going out to all these events and like seeing people that are like even at professional levels put on like a disjointed show. Like it's like, okay, yeah, the track they just did is like face melting or some shit.
Right.
But it still feels like there's no, like, they've been playing with this group for a few months or weeks or days even.
Yeah.
And it's just so new, but like you guys were such a unit up there, and it was very like, I felt like a wave of shit, like how I only felt that like at real shows like Union Transfer, some shit with like crazy good sound, and like you guys have enough like cohesive sound shit as a band of just being so tight, with Joe being so fucking tight, you being a crazy guitarist, and Andrew is like multi-instrumentalist, so like he's holding down the bass no fucking problem. And then Jamie's really blowing me away lately too, of like just stage presence. I feel like has finally come into itself. Sure. Like, because I feel like I was there when like he was figuring it out still a bit, and because it's hard to be an intense only singer.
Yeah, you don't see it a lot anymore. I think that was always like the cool thing I liked about us, that we were like, we had that classic band image of like, there's just a singer, just a guitar player, just a bass player, just a drummer. You don't see it a lot anymore. And yeah, he's been killing it. I mean, I think he sounds great. And I think, we were talking about Joe and Andrew. I think that's definitely what makes us such a tight sounding unit, because I mean, Joe and Andrew are definitely a lot more technically proficient than like I could ever dream to be.
You think? Because like there's some shit like you bust out that I'm like, oh, like I've been playing. I feel like I've been messing around with guitar and like noodles and even like some stuff kind of cool on guitar, but like you'll do something like, man, like I can't move my fingers like that, and I'm just like, cool. Like they're all at a pretty damn good level, you know. I feel like you shouldn't sell yourself so short. Like Joe is fucking face melting.
Yeah, he's the best ever. And like even as you know, I've known Joe since we were teenagers. I mean, even then, he was always like the drummer. You know, like however many bands we've played with, I think, you know, it was just so crucial to me. Like we have to have Joe in the band because Joe's gonna be able to keep up with that intensity that we have. Yeah, I mean, he's a beast.
Acid 9
shout out.
Yeah, like real shit. Like when I first met Joe, it was like he was a little more green than I was on drums, and like at least in certain areas, like I was pretty good at double kick, and using that around the kit as well.
Right.
So like I felt like there was a few things like I had under my belt that like he didn't. I was like, all right, cool. Like we'll have this like rivalry, mini like drum rivalry thing through high school because like we both were in drumline and we're both also just trying to be the best of who we can be.
Totally.
And so it was always this like friendly competition at the same time because we were also competing to be like the drum captain or getting the spots. But it was awesome because I feel like I definitely drifted off and started doing guitar and like figuring out production and piano and just trying to like do other things. And he just drummed. He just drummed and drummed and drummed.
Yeah.
And it shows. And it's fucking towering over any drum skills I have today. and it just because like he's like a perfect example of like someone that like if you just stick with something and have that drive for it, you will be it.
Yeah. I mean, he just keeps getting better and better. And yeah, I mean, I think that's like the key to the Jumping Juvies success. I think our longevity is such a part of it because I mean, it started with us just jamming in high school. Like it wasn't a band, you know what I mean?
It kind of was. It was for a high school band with no money whatsoever. Like most of these bands that were a band in high school had parents to pay for all that shit.
Sure.
Like that's the only way I was able to do anything was because my dad would get me a guitar. Or my dad would get me a fucking drum set.
Yeah.
And like not everyone has those opportunities. And I like even Overfield had those things like with Tony bringing just like the Casio around, and that was cool. Like Chris didn't have a drum set for a while. That was fun. Like you need to make it work.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys did exactly the best you could have done.
Well, thank you.
At that time.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, it's definitely the punk ethos of like, you know, we don't have the best equipment and we don't look cool, you know, like we just,
I think you fit the aesthetic.
You know what I mean? Like, but that was the thing. It was, and you know, I think, like CBGBs, all those bands are super important to me. And the idea of like, you don't have to look like a rock star to actually be in a band. That was so appealing to me. Like, you know, the Ramones could just throw on like a t-shirt and jeans and they were a band. And, you know, and again, like they didn't need the greatest equipment to become such a incredible band. So, you know, I mean, I definitely struggled a lot growing up, just me and my mom, you know, so it's not like we ever had money for anything. You know, I got my guitar like shoveling houses door to door. But I think that kind of stuff was so crucial to it because I think that's where I think we have like a frustrating sound sometimes. Like there's a sort of chaos to it that stems from so many things. But you know, I think that's what I can bring to the table, and for me, I guess it's more of a spiritual kind of thing. Like, I can't read music or anything. It's just like, it's all passion, it's all feeling. And Joe and Andrew definitely have that, but you know, I think them like being able to read music and really understanding time and, you know, that technical proficiency, like balanced with my chaotic approach, I think that was so important to making the Jumping Juvies sound. You know, and I think it's just been getting better and better. Like I said, like when we were in high school, I think we were just trying to figure out how to be in a band.
Yeah.
And like a lot of those bands break up. Mm-hmm. Like you see them as a teenager and you're like, oh, like those couple guys, they really have something. Mm-hmm. And it's just so clear that they're going to join another band and like it's going to be successful.
Or at least like individuals.
Yes.
Not so much like the groups.
Yeah. Like you can kind of like pinpoint them. And I think, you know, like again, all those bands break up. We never broke up because I think we were just like such a tight unit. And I think we understood that it was just going to keep getting better if we put work into it. And I mean, we all really cared about what we were doing. So I think, you know, I mean, again, like all those songs we wrote when we were like 17, it's like, that's not us.
Mike Lewis, I'm so glad you brought up that because here I have a very special release that I found.
There it is.
The Matt EP. Do you recognize this?
Oh, I don't want to.
Tell me about the Matt EP.
The Matt EP, of course, the album artwork created by one Paul Marchesani in high school within like 5 minutes. that I vividly remember, like us sitting in our homeroom and I was like, I need an album cover, and you just like whip. I don't know if you had like an iPad or something.
I forgot I had that.
You just like whipped out some device and like pulled this random picture of our friend Matt Tatey, and like it was just such a ridiculous picture. We were like, that's it.
Like, I'll slap some text on it and call it a day.
That's it. And we were like, that was okay with us. We were like,
to my dearest.
Oh my God. I like that I just have like a very like simple
like smiley face.
Like the other guys tried to like make some sort of cool signature and I just wrote my name.
Joe's is actually a signature. Like, that's awesome.
That actually looks pretty good.
That looks just fuck.
To my, what is that, Andrew?
To my it's like Wreck-It Chris comma Andrew Height.
Nice.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
this was fantastic. What a good time.
The Mad EP, it was definitely our first attempt at writing music. is important to me because it was like, you know, when you're like a teenager and you're trying to figure out how to be a band, again, like those bands break up and then they take those lessons they've learned from that and actually make something great. I think with us, it was just like we were all best friends. So there was never a need to like break up. It wasn't like we were just in a band with random people. Mm-hmm. You know, we all cared about each other very much. And I think, you know, so high school ends and we go to college and we start playing house shows. And I think it was at that point that we really kind of understood that like we could actually be a band. And, you know, I wrote this song, Planes to Baltimore, and it was different than what we were doing because, again, it was just us trying to figure out stuff, and we made so many different types of songs.
It definitely has a lot of power to it compared to anything before that.
Yeah, and I think that was like a pivotal point for us because we played that song at our first house show ever, and it was the first time we ever saw people react to our music. you know, because before that we're playing like coffee shops and, you know, like screaming, and it's like loud guitars.
People are fucking
and
sitting down.
people are like, it's like parents. And
I mean, like that's what you get when you're in that age, you know?
So this was, I mean, I think that was like the most rock and roll thing for us. Like, it was just, there's no rules at a house show. It's just people fucking drinking and drugs everywhere, and like people really like, cutting loose.
It's like, don't be a dick rules.
Yeah. It was just, you know, people our age, like, really getting into what we were doing, and that was the first time we had ever seen that, and that was so powerful to see. Like, you know, you play this like idea that you had in your head, and you actually see like all of these people react and mosh and dance with each other, and strangers becoming friends. And it was, I think we all looked at each other like there's something there. And so, you know, at that point, Joe went away to college in like Pittsburgh. So we were just, it was like shortly after we like did this song, we were like, oh man, like, you know, like what are we gonna do? So I think there was a bit of a stalemate there.
Yeah, I think I was gonna mention this earlier because there were a few breaks the Juvies had. Yeah, and I feel like because everyone, like as you said, is like kind of so tight in their own right. Like when they came back together and had that, like, oh man, we still have that juice right fucking there. I feel like that kept that train going, and like made it seem like, oh, even if we have a break, like we're gonna come back and it's gonna be something again, like without a doubt.
And it's sort of like, you know, there's so many bands that are like that, and you just never hear about it because it's just like they put out their debut album and they're a brand new band to you. And you know, I think us going through all the hiccups of trying to figure out how to be a band were happening during that time. And you know, when Joe went away, I was like, there's something here. I really want to improve my songwriting, and I think, you know, we should, in the meantime, make a demo and put it out and see how people react to it. And people really liked it, and, you know, Planes to Baltimore is still like a song we end with at every show. But I was like, we can definitely expand upon this. And when Joe got back from college, it was like, we should actually make like a legitimate EP, because it feels like now we actually feel like a band, and we're writing much better material.
Yeah, like a total idea. And now Joe's back. Yeah. You know,
like the Jumping Juvies sound is a result of just so much different things. I mean, I think the Philly DIY scene is a big part of it and influenced it so much. But yeah, I think that struggle and that longevity is what created what we have. And then, you know, so we make this EP, Eddie Pop, and, you know, I write the song 2 for 2, and, you know, we put it out, and we're like, all right, let's see what happened. We actually went to a legit studio. We recorded that at Headroom.
That's fucking sick. Yeah, it sounds great.
Thank you. And you know, at the time, Helen Light was still at WXPN, and she played it on the radio. So it was like, wow, we're on the radio. We actually got some radio play from a few stations.
If you write a good fucking track and it sounds good, and you're nice in your email, most people will kind of want to play it.
Yeah. So
that's sick.
You know, it was, you know, that was such a big turning point. And it was like, man, we really are a band. Like, let's write a bunch of songs, and, you know, let's see where this can take us. And then COVID happened. And so like right as like we're getting the radio play, you know, the world shuts down.
Yeah.
And but I think in that moment I was like, well, people really like 2 for 2. That really seems to be like that is the Jumping Juvie sound. And I have all of these other ideas that are like that. And I think I was kind of holding on to them for a while because I was like, we didn't know what our sound was. But that made it exciting for me because I had all of these ideas and I could actually like really bring them to life. And so, 2020, obviously nothing's happening. 2021, we decided to record a few songs and we put one out at the end of last year called Am I Dead Yet?
That's with the video of you in the studio and everything.
Yeah, we did. Matt Bonchak runs this great Fuzzy Sweater coalition kind of thing and does live sessions of bands. And
cool.
So that was sort of like our first time being able to debut that. And then that song again gets picked up and played on WXPN. And we're like, okay, like we really have something now. And now this year we put out the song You're Just Gonna Kill Me Anyway, and that's doing really well streaming wise. And we got signed.
Yeah, talk about that for a minute.
Yeah.
So like, were you looking for, do you like sending out your demos to labels, I guess? Like, how are you finding labels, or did you get a fucking random email and you're like, this actually looks legit, and you reply, or what happened?
Yeah. So we weren't sending it out to anybody, but there was this newer company called Plays that's in like the Philly music scene now, and yeah, if you've heard, they have like this like social media for musicians. Basically, it's this app, and if you're in need of, if you're looking to start a band and you're looking to find people. If you love Otis Redding. But yeah, they hosted these like networking events. And it was just like, if you're looking for other musicians, or you're looking for a booking agent, or you need a videographer, like, come out to this event and, maybe you'll meet somebody that can really help you out. And that was the big thing for me, because I was like, well, we're doing really well. We got radio play, but like, now what? Like, we're not like a signed artist. We don't know how to really navigate all of these components that we need. Like, we're a band and we write music, and that's really all we know. So I go to the event, and I met this incredible woman, Olivia Farkas, who created the label Eclectica Division.
Okay.
So I met Olivia through that, and I think at that point the label was starting out, and she was looking for artists to add, and so I sent Olivia some of my stuff, and she was really into it, and there was a second networking event like a few months later, and at that one, Olivia was at that one as well, and saw me and came up to me and said, basically like, I like your stuff and I'd like to set up a meeting with Jumping Juvies, and see if we're on the same page and go from there. And then we had this incredible meeting with her, and that ultimately is what led to us getting signed. We realized how much Olivia and Eclectica Division cared about the local music scene. I think there were certain components of the scene that felt kind of cliquey, or like you had to sound a certain way to succeed. Yeah, a
little bit sometimes.
Yeah, and obviously like when we play shows, we're so different from the other bands we play with. Typically.
It's a lot of pop punk. It's a lot of that's how I feel when I go to shows, like as electronic artists. Like, it's all this like EDM or house, or some guy with all of his modular gear on the table making like noisy shit for a half hour, and it's like cool, but like I don't feel like I feel like none of these fit with each other, and I don't fit with any of these. It's like, who's booking these? It's like, I feel like it's not rare to find similar artists.
Right.
It's just like it's like cliquey, I think, like you said.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of effort, I think,
reaching out and trying to
build that kind of a bill.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of always a setback for us. Like, it was hard to get some shows because every other band was pop punk band, every band was an indie band, and then we're just so different. And I love that shit, but it was kind of hard for us to find a groove where we felt like we fit in, and then Olivia, rescued us basically. Awesome. And I think she saw a lot of potential and realized that a lot of people from like the scene appreciated that the kind of music we were making because it was so different from things that they heard. And she finally, we finally got this platform to feel like we belong because of her. Mm-hmm. So I attribute so much to what we're doing now because of Olivia. And it's just been great. We've been rolling, and I've been, writing a ton of songs, and the goal is for next year to put out like a debut record with Eclectica. So it's all good stuff, man. It's
sick,
smooth
dude.
Sailing.
That's fucking sick, man.
Yeah.
Cheers to that shit. Like, I mean, I'm right there with you. I feel like labels are really good for niche things. At least to start you out, mm-hmm. and to get you to have some kind of little puff on the map.
Right.
That Juvies, people know of the Juvies.
Right.
Like, remember that album? You know what I mean? Like, shit like that.
Yeah.
Because I find it's really hard to get anything that's not like lo-fi hip-hop mm-hmm. out there. Because lo-fi hip-hop, like, you're going to find a playlist, and who's to say if that's real listens or not? Like, for me, I'm just so fucking jaded with that genre in particularly because it's like I hear it and make it all the fucking time.
Right.
And so I'm just like, people still listen to this? And yeah, people still listen to it. So it's like, if you try to make like ambient music, say, like there's a couple like really cool ambient records I was able to really push out to the world because of these labels, and like they put it on cassette or they put it on a fucking Game Boy Advance or VHS, and you're like, what the fuck, this is crazy. And then before you know, you just like get like randos finding this because they're into just like what a label does,
right?
know? And I feel like that labels that do that are great. So that's really cool that they are focusing more on harder rock and stuff that's, or at least just stuff that's not the norm today.
I think that's the big thing with them, that literally it says it in the name. They are eclectic, and they realize how much like different kinds of music is in the Philly music scene. It's not just this bubble of it's only this or that. Some of the other artists on the label are like Belle, who's fantastic. She's like an indie artist, but there's also this other person, Sarah Hana, who is like a harp player, and just like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not stuff that I think a lot of people are even aware of in the music scene. And, Eclectica is like providing this platform to like get all of us out there and be seen. And that was my thing for me with the label. It was like, I didn't want to be on a label to just be on a label. Because like, what does that even mean? And what can a label do for what I mean, what the in the music scene now? Yeah. Like what does that mean? And
that's so real today, at least today, because before you wouldn't be able to just be like, oh, we're a label. We released your music with us. Like, every motherfucker and their dog has their own label today, and it's just so like, it's hard because like people will be like, oh yeah, just being on a label is enough, or like being on a label will give me all this stuff, right? Because that's what it means. But that's not what it means. You have to really like research these fucking companies or quote unquote companies of these labels, because people will just take your music, and not to say like they'll take it, but in the sense of like they're just gonna take that little percentage off streams or whatever the fuck, and like throw it on like their distributors playlists that will be a guarantee or some shit. It's really hard today, so it's cool that you found something that seems to be pretty organic.
Yeah, and it's definitely grassroots with them, and I mean, I think just the fact that they care so much about the scene, that was so important. Like, I mean, they just know everything. They know the ins and outs, and they see so much potential in so many different types of artists, and you know, I think that's a true testament to their philosophy. And you know, I mean, I can't like. What they've done for us so far has been incredible, and like now we're playing the venues we wanted to play.
There you go.
Yeah, like it's not the Nail, like, not to burn on the nail, but like, you know what I mean? It's just like there was always like these like several places you were like guaranteed to play, and all the great places where like so much of the music scene gravitated towards,
like TLA, Union Transfer.
Yeah. But even, I mean, there's so many great local venues. Like, obviously, there's like Johnny Brenda's,
like Blue and Saddle,
Kung Fu Necktie, Khyber Pass. Like, now we're getting into these kinds of places, and doing very well. Like, now we actually have an audience, and you know, that same energy that we felt in all those basement shows. Like, I'm starting to see that at those kinds of places. You know, and I think, you know, again, the Jumping Juvies philosophy is the longevity and just not giving up. I think we've never felt like a need to break up. We love what we do, and we just keep putting the work in and expanding our sound. There's so much growth, and you know, I think now we're at the point where we're starting to really come together and make something great.
Nice.
So yeah,
cool, dude. Well, that's basically all the Juvie shit. Damn, go check them out. Now, I've been meaning to ask, since we haven't seen each other in a long fucking time.
Yeah, man.
Any new releases or any disappointments that you've heard lately from bands or anything like that? Like, there's been so many new. Like, have you heard that new Muse song?
No, I haven't.
Compliance.
Is it called Compliance?
It's called Compliance.
That sounds like a Muse song name.
It's how it starts. Like, you press play, it's like, compliance. We require your compliance. I can't fucking believe this is a song. Like,
now I need to hear the song.
Oh, it's fucking god awful. Like, I feel like we're in a beautiful era of bands still staying alive and releasing music, and it's either like, oh, you should have not done this, or like the new Red Hot Chili Peppers, I think, is really fucking tight. Have you heard any of those?
Yeah, I know they put out 2 records this year. I listened to the first one, and there was a lot of solid stuff on it, and I mean, John Frusciante is back. So I thought that was incredible. I haven't heard the second one yet, but I heard good things. Yeah,
like, that's pretty cool. Have you heard the new Green Day stuff?
I have.
How do you like it?
Well, listen. To me, I'm a lifelong Green Day fan, and they can do no wrong for me, Paul. But I know some people are not about the newest record, which was just so. It was different. Like, it was different. But I will say, on that record, they have this song called Stab You in the Heart, and I was really into that because it was just like an intense, like, bluesy kind of jam. Okay. But again, we're talking about Green Day. Yeah. Well, I think that's always the thing that bands are like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's like we could just like regurgitate like the thing that made us successful again and again and again, and people will be like, oh my god, like, this just sounds like every other Green Day song, or they do something different, and
I don't think it's impossible to churn out again and again and again. Like, name a single artist. I'm serious. Name a single artist where like you can play one album and then skip an album and then play that album and you're like, oh yeah, this is like the same fucking thing.
I'm gonna say a lot of that like post grunge shit that I'm just so not into, like Shine Down. Every time I turn on the fucking radio, man.
I guess like that stuff for sure.
That's the stuff that always sticks out to me, like that, like
Breaking Benjamin.
Yeah, like these bands were just kind of like piggybacking off the success of the 90s. And then that just became like modern rock radio. Yeah. Like I swear to you, every
Crossfade.
time. Yeah. You know what I mean? Fucking Godsmack.
Yeah.
Like shit like that.
Dude,
like
Shine
Down and See that, like all of these bands.
Skillet.
Yeah. Like they're not really contributing anything else. And they weren't really doing that to begin with. And yeah, man, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. Like you turn on the radio and like every song is just like my sanity.
Yeah,
like
it's
they talk
dark.
They talk about sanity a lot. That's a big talking point.
Because they don't want to talk about their feelings. They just say like, "Oh, I'm insane."
They're like, "Your dad loves us."
Like, you'll hear us at the bar. But like, yeah. I don't know, like I'm really upset with a lot of bands, man. Like it's just been bad. It's just been bad.
There's so much good music out there. I think for a while it was just harder to find, and I think that's the one thing I have to give streaming that, you know, I think it's made
finding acts.
Yeah, finding really good bands a lot easier. Obviously the thing is like, well, now all these bands you didn't know about, well, now you know about a shit ton of them. Yeah. And maybe it's harder for bands to stick out because you're like, oh, fuck, there's like so many bands that are like this. Mm-hmm.
That's the rub.
Yeah, but it's cool that so many bands are getting that exposure. And there's still, like, I love WXPN. Yeah. Still, because, like, they're always, like, you know, exposing you to new music and all different types of music. And I mean, I found out about bands like Alabama Shakes and like I love Courtney Barnett and like just so many things. I mean, this year Wet Leg has been like a big band for me. I don't know if you ever listen to Wet Leg. No. I'm getting squeaky. Any water?
That was a good Shaggy for a second.
Try it, man. I have the hair.
I forget what band I discovered on XPN that like I think it was like Local Natives or some shit. They just played something like random. Yeah. Like then like some indie hour and I'm like, who the fuck is this? Yeah. This is like cool shit. Like I think I'm gonna be trying to send some of my new stuff to XPN for like their later shows, you know.
Yeah, they definitely do like the local hour. And so yeah, I mean that's like specifically you finding out about like really good Philly bands, like, and that's cool too. Like bands that you may have already played with, you know, like,
you know, it's pretty cool. Like the Spotify algorithm for like some big acts in Philly jumped to other Philly acts.
Right.
Like, I was playing the new Going single the other day, and then it just jumped to Sweet Pill. Yeah. And then it jumped to fucking like Carly Cosgrove or something. And it just like kept kind of going till I'm like, I know that name. Oh, I know that name. Yeah. Hey, wait a sec. So it's cool. It's definitely a double-edged sword, like how you said. Like, yeah, you're exposed, but you're exposed now. Yeah. Like, you're really exposed. Like, oh, you thought you were like the only one making this style shit? Right. Wrong. There's actually an official playlist. And like,
this shit's been around since the 70s.
Yeah, like look at all these motherfuckers way better than you, way huger than you, and been doing it since the 70s, you dumb fuck. This has been around forever. You thought you were new to ambient or whatever. You think a piano and a synth is new? Yeah, I don't know. Brian Eno. I don't know.
Brian Eno, shout out.
Yeah. I've been getting into a lot of like weird, like very weird internet core stuff, like haunted ballroom music and stuff. You ever listen to like The Caretaker or anything like that?
I don't think so.
It's like this not 6 hour. It's like multiple hours. It's like 6 stages of like going into like dementia basically, and just like totally losing everying at the
Holy
end.
shit.
It's crazy. It's amazing. It's a beautiful album, and it's like very like The Shining type stuff.
Yeah.
Like super like filtered, pitched down, and like in the room across the hall playing this just like like reverberating off the walls, and just like, fuck, what's going on? Like shit, like that's like where I'm at, because I don't know, music today is just so everything. You have to have everything is available to you at touch your fingertips, from like shit you know to shit you've never heard of, and then like shit you really never heard of.
Yeah,
it's just all there.
It's overwhelming sometimes. It's almost like having too many choices makes it hard to have a choice, like to actually like sit down and focus on something. But yeah, I mean, there really is. There's so much good music. I feel like I've been listening to like a lot of folk music recently. I mean, me and Joe like worship like Pete Seeger and Woody Guthrie. Like we could talk about that all day, but you know, there's bands out now like Big Thief. Big Thief is like a really big band that I've been listening to. And they're starting to get really big. I think they're coming to like whatever the Electric Factory is called now. Like that's where they're playing, like Franklin Music Hall or something.
Really? That's what
Voltage
it's
Lounge
called now? Yeah. Franklin Music Hall?
Yeah.
No way.
I think like Live Nation took over the Electric Factory.
I've heard that name a bunch, and I'm like, what the fuck is the Franklin Music Hall?
Yeah, that's like the new name for that place.
Whoa, okay.
But yeah, like, you know, that's bands like that. I'm really getting into. Like I said, Wet Leg was a big one this year. I mean, there's been kind of a resurgence in like surf rock and surf punk kind of stuff.
Really?
Yeah, I've been getting into a lot of those kinds of bands. There's this really cool band called the Surfer Jets, and I saw them at a festival on the beach last month, and it was so much fun. It's like all instrumental surf rock.
Oh, shit.
Like all female. They look like doo-wop singers, like from the '60s. It's really cool.
Oh, that's really sick.
Like I'm starting to see a lot of
bands
really cool
with
surf bands.
shtick.
Yeah, and then I think, and that's the other thing with streaming, like it's made a lot of things niche. Like niche isn't really niche anymore, because you can find like
you can find a hashtag on that.
Yeah, you know? Yeah, and you like. It's really like creating like communities. Like a band could have like millions of streams and like play a big show, and like you've never heard of that band, but like this niche group of people have, and like
they're able to sell out show after show after show.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's really interesting to see that kind of stuff.
That's
like,
so true, because you see all these like new pop acts and shit.
Yeah.
Like just like single names, and like they're playing the TLA. It's like,
yeah.
Who the fuck is
like
any of these names?
Yeah.
And it's like sold out. What? I don't even like. I mean, like, is it good or is it bad? I don't even know. What style is it? Like,
like
do they have a guitar? Is there a DJ? What's going on?
Or is it real?
Yeah. Is it a hologram? Oh, I can't wait for that shit though.
I heard there was a Dio hologram.
Yeah,
I think they did a couple shows.
Oh, what?
Already.
Like shows of Dio?
Shows of Dio as a hologram. I have heard about this. I think it happened. I have to see. And then wasn't there like they did like a Tupac?
Oh yeah, that was a whole
thing?
thing. But they're probably perfecting it by now.
Yeah.
Fuck, man.
It's fucking crazy.
We're in the future.
Dio,
Speaking
man.
of the future, this is a good time to talk about what's your opinions on like using social media for bands. Like, how do you guys approach it? How do you guys approach using social media?
It's really tricky because, you know, like I am obsessed with a band called Parquet Courts. Like if you know me and you're listening to this, you're like, oh my God, he's talking about that fucking band again. Like this band has floored me on so many levels. And something that's really interesting about them is to this day, they've never had social media. And, you know, they were here in April, and I saw them at the Fillmore, like sold out Fillmore.
Wow.
You know, like everything about that band was just organic, like word of mouth. If you knew, you knew. But, and, you know, again, like radio stations like XPN gave them some radio play, and, you know, I guess like a bunch of NPR affiliated stations play them all over the country. But that's about it. They've just played a fuck ton of shows, and they kept putting out really good material, and they're at where they're at. I think the only thing they've done recently was they finally like made a website so that you could like, you know, join their mailing list to find out when they were playing.
Wow.
But like,
that's it
to this day.
Well, you got to think like if they have like some record deal or some shit, you know, and they're just like, oh, we don't have to do any social
They're on like
media.
Rough Trade Records. It's like big record label.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there you go then. It's if you're on like, I could see like if you just have a crazy like Bandcamp following or like YouTube clips and shit, you just become this like name, you know, over the years of just keep doing the shit and just keep continuously playing. And then I think like radio play is something that's overlooked a lot today, but I feel like because a lot of people look at that as like, oh, that's not going to get me on the editorial playlist or whatever. It's like, yeah, but I might get you a gig in like the future. Like, I don't know. I feel like
no, I was just talking to my friend who goes to NYU, and she's in this music production program, and one of her classes talked about that. She was telling me that radio is still the number one way people find out about music. Yeah. Basically, yeah.
So I'm living with my partner, Katie. She likes to listen to the radio. Yeah. Particularly 104.5.
Sure.
And
your favorite radio station.
It's so great, dude. A little quick tangent about 104.5. You fucking serious? Like, so you know that do you know that fucking what I don't even know the song name. I don't even know the band. But it's like, 'cause tonight will be the night that I will fall for you over again.
I just know
it's like that meme,
the TikTok
right? The
thing
TikTok.
Of that, yeah.
The fucking meme.
That's a real song?
It's a real song.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
That I didn't know.
Yeah. That I don't know who does it. But like they played it for their stupid like Halloween weekend or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And then immediately, like, the song ends, and then the host comes on, and they're like, 'cause tonight will be the night that will fall free, and, like, does the meme and, like, mimics it right there on the air. It's like, oh, I love that, blah, blah, blah. Next up is, I'm like, are we in the fucking, we're, like, in the spectacle, like, hyper reality of life. Like, you just played it.
Yeah.
You just played the song. How can you do that? How can you like rip on the song immediately? Like that's like saying like, oh, you like that? Fuck you for listening, by the way, and fuck us for playing it. Next up is Weezer. Like I just don't fucking get that.
Yeah.
Like what a stupid fucking move. That pissed me off. Like I don't even know that band. Yeah. I could care less, but I feel very shitty that they did that. Like they don't do that to Tom DeLonge after they play I Miss You. They don't do a fake British accent after On Holiday from fucking Green Day. All other jokes you could do. No, you're going to rip on this one band? Nah, that's mean. I feel like that's fucking mean. Fuck you, 104.5.
Tell them, dude.
Yeah, I hope you're listening. What was the other thing? But yeah, anyway, so I've listened to 104.5 to try and have like this insight to pop music a bit.
Yeah.
Of like yes, half of them are chopped for radio edit, and you know there's probably a longer part in there, but like you still have to like think like those songs are just like without a doubt capitalism approved. Like boom, can sell, will sell, and will sell it.
Sure.
And so I try to like take that like at least format of how
Yeah.
there's just no bullshit. There's no fat in any of these songs. There's always something interesting. If they repeat the chorus, there's that, like even just fucking Weezer's Say It Ain't So. The ain't so, that little so makes everything.
Totally.
And it makes you know where you are in the song too. You're like, oh, we're at the final chorus or whatever the fuck.
Sure, yeah.
I feel like those tiny little details are so important and just overlooked by like a lot of underground and indie musicians because they're like, yeah, fuck radio. I don't listen to the radio. I listen to, let's put on Steely Dan, you know, or whatever the fuck that like cool and hipstery and like Frank Zappa, you know, let's listen to some original shit. And then you're like, okay, cool. You can go make stuff inspired by all that stuff, but it might just be you and your friends listening to it in the basement.
Yeah.
Like, there was like that. I saw a quote from like I forget who said it, but it was like a 50 Cent quote actually, saying like, "Oh man, you gotta write yourself a fucking hit. Like, where's your radio hit?" And he's like, "Man, I just want to write like my shit. You know, have fun with it." And he's like, "All right, dude, you can have fun with it in your mama's basement, and no one's gonna know about it. Cool."
Sure.
It's like it's stuff like that, and like there's like a grain of salt you can take with that in the sense of like. Because I don't know, I just see a lot of artists like who are so true to themselves, and it's awesome that they're true to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But like you have to realize like we're not in that world unless you do it forever. I feel like if you do it forever, like say you write some weird shit that like it's hard to people to get into, but you do that weird shit for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be that guy that's doing that thing. And how, like,
Sure.
we were talking earlier, like, you don't have to dress like a rock star. Like, that you're just going to be your own aesthetic.
Yeah, you're creating a culture.
Like, that's it. I couldn't think of the word for it. But, yeah, I think, like, we're in that age where you can create those own whole cultures and worlds.
Totally.
It's all just, you got to do it long enough.
Yeah. It's that niche thing of, like, eventually this set amount of people will love that, and they'll tell their friends, like their friends will be like, "This my fucking boyfriend keeps talking about this fucking band. Have you heard of them?" You know? Like just shit like that. Yeah. But I'm just always so baffled by like that band you were saying that just doesn't do social media. Yeah. Like how long have they been a thing? Are they like around forever? Like type band? They've been. I think their first record was like 2013. Maybe they had like an EP before that. But yeah, I mean, it's fucking crazy because like they're getting big and like they like randomly like Ellen loved them. They played on Ellen and like they played. I couldn't even believe like they don't give a fuck. Like they played this. They have the song called "Stoned and Starving." And they played that and
on Ellen,
and you can. It's
I didn't
hilarious.
even know Ellen had musical guests.
Right. The shocking
I thought
revelation.
They just talked and then threw like bean bags at stuff.
Amid that, they had parking. They had parquet courts. This like they're like a post-punk kind of band, and like this song is just like super like noisy and crazy, and like they're like. He has this like added part now where he's just like calling out rock and roll for being boring and like we need to like fucking like get back to like experimenting and like really pushing boundaries, and he's saying all this shit to like a group of moms.
Yeah, I'm gonna say all the moms are.
Yeah. Oh, you gotta see it. It's so great. Well, it's hilarious because when the song ends, it's not like a roaring applause on Ellen. You just hear like some faint claps.
Oh my god!
It's the greatest thing ever.
I bet a lot of them were offended.
Yeah, like they're like, I mean, it's literally like if they had. I don't know, fucking like Nirvana on Ellen, he'd be like, what the fuck?
Nirvana that like no one knew about Nirvana. Yeah,
totally.
And like Kurt Cobain was doing his shit of like, I'm gonna be like, fuck this at the same time. Yeah,
totally. And so, it's like that band's success is incredible, but it also has really made me go like, well, how important is social media then? because this band just writes really good songs and they tour a lot, and that was enough for them to get where they are. And I mean, even now, like, because we've never been like social media experts. I think, you know, like Instagram is definitely like the platform we use.
Yeah, that's like everyone has to have.
Yeah,
Instagram.
if you're gonna do one, it's
Yeah.
it's Instagram, and some bands now have like TikToks.
I feel like that's a big thing today. Is bands having TikToks and then like putting their practices on live or some shit. You know?
Yeah, and even I mean, some bands like songs will get picked up and played relentlessly on TikTok, because like. I mean, like, I've always loved this band, speaking of surf rock, King Khan and the Barbecue Show. And, like, you know, they're very, like, DIY. The song they have from, like, 2005 is on, like, so many TikToks now.
Really?
And, like, I saw, like, I think they broke up and they got back together and they're touring. And it's, like, you know, I would have to.
What's the song? I might have heard.
It's called I Love You So. I think that's what it's called. It's like it's kind of doo-woppy.
I definitely have heard it at some point.
Yeah.
Like I'm on that fucking app too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it almost makes me think now that like we've been talking about this that like could like I feel like yesterday like it feels very crucial. But like maybe in certain cases, like could adding social media to the stockpile of shit you have to do for the band mean just like, oh, like we have traffic, let's make more lanes. Like that's not going to solve the problem.
Right.
Like that's not like you still have shit to do now. Like you put a bigger task on yourself. If you didn't have any of that, then you could spend all that time you're doing like taking pictures or worrying or having an active account, and by using all that time to email radio stations or to email whoever the fuck or to send it to sync licensing people instead of just sitting there and like, oh, let's make a video so we get likes. Like
it sort of like strays your goals, because you're like, is the goal to put out great music, or is it just like your endless search for
popularity?
And then content creation and shit that isn't even relevant to the music you're making. And like, how does that affect your music? Because like, are you just trying to be known as the person you are, or like the music you make? And it's tough. I mean,
we're diving deep.
We are. But yeah, it's something, man. I don't know.
I think that's a really good question. Like, it's a really good point too. Of like, are you like? I feel like a lot of people get there too, where it's like, oh man, like I gotta get those numbers up, and so like if I don't have numbers, or if I'm not posting, like I'm not getting those streams, like people are not gonna know about me. Like honestly, like, yeah, I feel like I've gotten to a point where I've minimized social media in the sense where when I make like a visual for something that I will always post on YouTube is different,
right?
But like if I make that, it takes 5 seconds for me to make it vertical, throw out now, and the album cover flowing in, and then I can just, all right, Instagram, all right, Twitter, all right, a YouTube short. And like I used to take a lot more time with those of just like, I don't know, like thinking it needed to be like all this, when it's really just like I just needed something happening as I'm playing the song. Like I want you to scroll by and hear the music.
Sure.
Like I don't want you to scroll by and like just see the cover and be like, I guess it sounds good. You know, like, so it's like, oh, I wanted it to be cool and captivating. It's like, no, who gives a fuck? Like I'm wasting too much time here. Like you just gotta like zoom out. Sometimes.
It plays its role, and I think it's, you know, it's obviously like a good way to get your name out there and reach an audience, but I don't feel like we have to put such a strong emphasis as we think we do on it, because there's some bands and they're just like, they got the algorithms figured out and they're gonna post but they're also
writing catchy, like poppy, like, oh, what's hip today? What's gonna get popular? A bedroom pop hit that sounds like Jack Stober or whatever the fuck, or some hyper pop tune that can be used in the background of like crazy TikToks and stuff. Like,
Sure.
or what's that new funk? Or like have a funk track where it's just like those like those crazy like video game type videos. Like it's like those four things that like I've seen acts do well on. Other than that, like Flagman Band is the only other band I've seen doing Juvies type shit and being a social media person. Like, I think more so what we're talking about right now applies to bands.
Yeah.
Because like as a like electronic artist, solo producer, etc., I've made so many collaborations and like met so many people through social media. So it's been very awesome for me, but I can see how when you're a band, you're not fucking doing that.
Yeah.
You know, like you might meet another band to play a show with, but 9 times out of 10 they live in fucking Timbuktu, and it's like, yeah, maybe in 5 years we'll be touring and be in Timbuktu and play with this band that's on par with us today.
Yeah.
But if we're gonna be touring and going to Timbuktu, we're probably gonna be bigger than that band by then.
Yeah.
So it's such a different fucking beast being a band on social medias. I could totally see where it's just let them know when you have a show. Just let them know when you have music.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to be a personality, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. I feel like we like check in occasionally.
Yeah.
You know?
That's only if you want.
Hey, we're here.
That's fun to do sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, I mean, and it's been working. Like this, people show up, we're putting out, like higher quality music, and we got signed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I think you should really attest, really give yourself a pat on the back for that sign thing, because y'all wouldn't be there if you didn't put your fucking boots to the ground and literally did something in real life.
Yeah.
Like you went out to an event just for marketing. There's no bands.
Yeah.
You're not trying to get laid. You're trying to get a fucking record deal. You know, like that's so. Yeah, you don't hear that today.
Yeah, and honestly, when I went out to that, like that is not what I expected to happen. I just thought, I remember thinking like, man, it's kind of hard for us to book some shows, so maybe like we'll meet a booking agent. Shows, yeah, that's all I was at, and then, but that's how it is. I think you just you take advantage of any opportunity that presents itself to you, and I think if you put in the hard work, you're going to get to where you want to be. I'm definitely an example of that. And, I think anybody can do that. That's not like a special thing about me. I think if you care enough, you're going to get the outcome you want.
Yeah. Just like you have to, like, obviously if you care, then fucking do it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think that's a great place to end, honestly.
Yeah.
Unless why don't we wrap it up with anything new you guys have on the horizon?
Yeah.
Or anything you want to mention or whatever the fuck.
I think, right now, I think it's go time for us. We're like writing a bunch of new songs, and we're looking into a place to record our debut album. So stay tuned.
Ooh, fucking yeah, dude. Yeah. All right. Thanks so much for coming on, Mike. Yeah. This was way more of a professional podcast than I was expecting.
I thought it was going to just be farts and whatever.
I left my soundboard at the other...
Damn it.
Yeah. But
all right.
This was so awesome.
It was great, man.
Thanks again for coming on, dude.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Go check out the Jumping Juvies. Don't know how to spell it? Look at your phone. It'll be in the title. Anyway.
It's true.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye.